Hello friends, it's Kat from Meow Kapow. We're big fans and friends of Well-Inked Box here at the channel, but if you aren't familiar with them and don't know why I say it's crucial for you to know just how different they are from normal subscription boxes, there's a link down in the doobly-doo and up in the iCards to the first ever unboxing I did, which includes a thorough breakdown of who, what, when, where, why, and how. Now, onwards, Percival! This box was sent to me for free back in October or November, but it's taken me a while to get my life right and share it with you. Inside are some pretty dope things like pens and an Ecoline brush marker that I'd been wanting to try out and an awesome pencil case, but the supply that has intrigued me the most for the longest is this liquid watercolor from Ecoline. I've seen these liquid watercolors all over YouTube and had some questions about them and how they work. Because most of the liquid watercolors in existence are made out of dyes, they're not expected to be light fast for a long period of time, but that's fine as long as you scan your finished artwork in and don't plan on displaying the original. Something I've never seen addressed is whether or not these types of watercolors lift well, meaning can you soften harsh edges after dried or remove enough color from the page to bring that spot back down to the original color of the paper? The answer is no. You can't soften edges pretty much at all, but you can manage to lift a subtle amount of color if you really work at it. Also, my white pens are pretty invaluable to me, and back when I did that video that tested a whole bunch of different ones, we talked about this weird phenomenon that some pens have with some paints where the white takes on the color of the underlying paint while drying. I tested a couple of the different pens in my arsenal, and while I wouldn't say that any of them outright turned orange while drying, I would say that 3 of the 4 definitely dried less vibrant than they normally would, leading me to think that these supplies don't really play nice together. I've got links in the doobly-doo to the pens that I tried, as well as the supplies that are in the box itself, but the only one that seemed to work well was the white Posca pen, which I'm not really surprised by since that Posca pen has really proven to be a champ. Given that this box is from back in fall and the colors are yellow and orange, well, it just seemed obvious to me that I was spiritually required to doodle out some jack-o'-lanterns and whatnot. Sakura Micron pens and I go way back, so I'm not surprised at their performance in the slightest. They're what I'd call a standard in the art world at this point, and I was glad to have a range of points that allowed both fine details and larger, bolder lines. Microns are waterproof, which also means they're perfect for working with both the liquid watercolors and the Ecoline brush pen. Well-Inked Box always does a great job of making sure that the tools inside work harmoniously together, which has always been one of my favorite aspects of their boxes. A lot of people use the Ecoline brush pens for calligraphy, but writing fancy just ain't one of my current hobbies, so I spent more time experimenting with seeing how it would react while being layered with the other materials. It is a water-based marker, which does mean that you can run a wet brush over the dried ink and spread it out a bit to soften the color, or scribble it on a piece of plastic and use a wet brush with it like it was watercolor to get different tones. It is honestly a handy little marker to have, and I've used it randomly in little doodles on cards I've sent out to customers in their Etsy orders, but I've already said that the supply that intrigued me the most was the liquid watercolor. The eyedropper inside is one of the weirdest ones I've ever seen, but which actually was quite useful in the way I was utilizing it. You can use the eyedropper like any other, where you pinch one end and it uses the suction to transport a fair amount of liquid, but because the tip of the glass tube itself has a weird bulbous protrusion, you can also just use it to carry a single droplet and dab onto whatever surface you want. So I did just that. For some of these random blotches that became pumpkins, I laid down some water first just to see how the color dispersed on a wet surface. For others, I used the yellow marker or just laid down the color straight and manipulated it with a brush afterwards. You're able to get a really good variety of intensities of the color with these different methods, and I'm betting that if I'd put some of this into a separate dish and used it as though it were regular watercolor, adding water to my brush or to the paint as I went, it would have been even more versatile. This color is sort of a rusty, earthy orange, so it doesn't fit within the color schemes I naturally reach for, and given that it can't be put into a palette dried and then reactivated as needed like what I typically do, it will never be my #1 go-to thing. But I think I understand a bit more about why people like this stuff. It is actually pretty fun to use, and the color is unapologetic in its power. Like, dang, you've basically gone straight to the source when it comes to these liquid colors. I'm really glad the liquid watercolor and the brush pen came in this Well-Inked box, because I'd wanted to try both of them, but couldn't really convince myself to spend money on them. And isn't that the best part of these things? Getting to try out stuff you wouldn't have known about or purchased on your own? I've tried a bunch of different boxes over the years, and this company by far has had my favorite combinations of supplies. If you've done sub boxes before, I'd love to hear more about your experiences with them. What's the best thing you've ever gotten, and what's the worst? I actually had a company go completely bust while I was subscribed to them once, and that was a bummer. RIP Pigment and Palette! If you'd like to get your own well-inked box, that infamous doobly-doo has links where you can snag your own, and if you use the code Meow, you'll get 15% off your first one. Seriously, I cannot recommend this company enough. It's run by wonderful people with great ideas and even greater intentions. It also bears gentle reminding that if you haven't already, please consider throwing a like and subscribe my way. The mighty YouTube algorithm demands it. Until I see you next time, I wish you peace, love, and I don't know, a good sandwich or something. Okay, bye!